Letitia, so good to see you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, always an honor. You know, I'm a big fan. Life is good. You're doing amazing things with educators.
Yes. Well,
So,
I've had a wonderful journey in education. I'm loving every minute of it. It's exciting that I get to wake up every day and do work that I absolutely love.
and it shows. You just radiate. Tell everyone a little about how you got here, who Letitia Woodley has been along the way in the journey, and how you become the rock star that you are.
Wow. Well, I have a very, I think a very interesting journey, but a very rewarding journey that I've had in education. And definitely not a straight path. So I didn't wake up and be like, yes, I want to be an educator. But I always knew based on my lived experience and, growing up in poverty, being a teen mom and just having, some social emotional challenges and just not being feeling like I was seen or even not so much heard, but really, my pain was not visible enough for educators to really pour into me. And so I had to navigate this silent struggle of dealing with these, the trauma, the effects of poverty and abuse and different things, and try to see how I could still be successful in the education arena. And I was just deep inside of me. I said I never wanted another child to be able to suffer in silence, and I wanted to be that the hero that I needed growing up. And so my journey started, working actually in the medical field, and I was working in the medical field and as a medical assistant because I was a teen mom, and that was the first job I could take. And I met an attorney who asked me to come and work for him because I could read medical records. And so I went to work for the attorney, and as luck would have it, he took a liking to my work and everything, and he saw something in me and wanted to send me to law school. And so here I am, actually, he paid for me to get my bachelor's degree and my a degree in paralegal studies, and was on my way to law school, had taken the LSAT, and we were in a court case, and it was a death penalty case. And that we were doing a young man, um, doing a death penalty case of a young man that was 15 years old that was on trial for murder. And he wrote a confession in all lowercase letters and said, I sighed, he sighed, I ran. And as I was sitting in that court case and knowing that, as the attorney in Georgia at the time, if you are trying a case and the case is gonna, you're not successful, you have to go watch that, person die. And I said, you know what? This is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm living someone else's dream. I'm supposed to be on the other side, making a difference in the lives of kids to make sure they get to the right lineup, the lineup that's going to get them to a high school diploma and to college, not the lineup that's going to get them into prison. And so I made the decision to go back and get a master's degree in counseling psychology and begin my career working in education. I started out at a private school, teaching social studies and part time, and then being a school counselor part time. So I had two jobs at the same time. As you work in small private schools, you have to sometimes wear many different hats. And then I continued on and got my master's in my doctorate in counseling psychology. And when I got my doctorate, I said I wanted to go to a space that had the most need. And so at the time, that was a area of time that I was living in Atlanta, and Atlanta Public Schools was that school district that was supposed to have all these challenges. And people were like, what are you doing? Why would you do such a thing? Why would you leave this plush job at the private school to go work and this, that's combat pay? Why would you do such a thing? But on my way to the job interview, I passed by, there was a prison that the students would have to walk past every day in order for them to go to school. And I said, this is the place I'm supposed to be. Because I thought back to that young man in that courtroom and said, I'm supposed to be able to make a difference in the lives of babies who walk past this prison every day and know that that does not have to be their destiny. So I began my journey in Atlanta Public Schools, and worked there and worked in a school that when I got there, they had a 40% graduation rate. And within 4 years of working with this principal and the team there, we was able to transform that school to a 90% graduation rate. And so, of course, when you are in education, when you have some success, you are rewarded with what? More work, right? A harder assignment. So then I was sent over to work at Crim High School. Crim High School was nicknamed Crime High School, because the one of the students had shot and killed one of the assistant principals. And so Crim was located in a space in Atlanta, which was considered to be the murder capital of the United States. When I started working there, during that time, there was a movie out called Waiting for Superman, and you could put in the zip code of a school and it'll tell you whether or not it was a dropout factory. Well,
Yeah.
Crim was considered to be a dropout factory, and within 3 years of me being there, it was turned from a dropout factory to be a model alternative school for the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
And so then I began to travel around the state of Georgia with the Georgia Department of Education. And
Yes.
so now the state of Georgia, the state superintendent has asked for me to travel with the Georgia Department of Education to go around the state to talk about what do you need to do to go into low performing schools and help them turn around to be high performing schools and get the success that we were getting. We got accolades from the U.S. Department of Education for the work because they had never seen a school grow that rapidly that had so many great needs. And
Yeah.
so as I'm traveling and presenting to different parts of the state of Georgia, in the audience with some superintendents from different parts of the state. And after my presentation, several superintendents came up to me and said, "Hey, how about you come to this particular county? How about you come to this particular county?"
Sure.
And I was like, "I'm happy where I am. We're doing great things. I'm happy. I'm enjoying the work
Yeah.
because I had fell in love with turnaround work at that point." And
Yeah.
then one of the superintendents says, "How would you like to go and work in Fulton County schools?" And I was like, and he said, "Not only Fulton County schools, but McLaren." So McLaren was a school that I actually went to as a teen parent. It was an alternative school. And so to have the opportunity to go back to make a difference
Yeah.
in the lives of kids who walked down the same halls that I did and had some of the similar challenges that I had growing up meant the world to me. So I had
Of
a beautiful
course.
opportunity to go back and try to make a difference in the lives of babies there.
Yeah.
Now, I've had success working in two different hard assignments. I went in thinking, hey, this is, I know the ropes. Let's go.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
was met with a lot of resistance
Yeah.
going in um, into McLaren. When I got there, they had a 17% graduation rate and just
Wow.
a lot of challenges. Our babies were homeless, teen parents.
Yeah.
Some of them were head of household, just a lot of extreme poverty and just a lot of major concerns.
Sure.
And so we had to really think outside of the box. I was given the flexibility to do some amazing things through a grant to be able to just transform that school and that community. Had a
Mhm.
lot of great support.
Mhm.
And through that work, we were able to go from a 17% graduation rate within 4 years, a 75% graduation rate. And
Wow.
so just had a beautiful journey. And so I was still now traveling around, not just the state
Mhm.
of Georgia, but around the United States,
Right.
talking about the great work that we were doing. And I was at Harvard with
Yeah.
my assistant principal. We were doing a program there.
Yeah.
And I turned to her and I was like, would you like to have more children? And she was like, I think we want one more. I said, because I think that my time at McLaren has come to an end.
Yeah.
I think I've done everything I can do except for, mess it up and start all over again. And so then I decided that at the end of that year, I was going to pursue other opportunities around the country. My
Yeah.
kids were grown. My daughter was graduating from college, and I felt like
Yeah.
I can go anywhere in the world to try to make a difference in the lives of children.
Yeah.
And so I researched school districts that were struggling, people felt like the kids could not be successful and things of that nature. And so, upon my research, I came across Kansas City Public Schools,
Yep.
which had been not accredited for almost 20 years
Yeah.
and had received was a lot of disinvestment, and 90% of the students were students of color, underprivileged, students. And so I felt like that was the space that I needed to go in. And so I was able to go to go to Kansas City
Mhm.
public schools as an assistant superintendent. And I was able to work with a dynamic superintendent and a team. And we were able to, within 4 years, regain accreditation and test scores and everything begin to soar in all areas. And so, of course, like I said, then I get to, we've got accreditation back. Things are moving in the right direction. Things are going really well.
Yeah.
And the superintendent decided it was time for him to make a transition to another assignment. And so I was at a crossroads and I said, okay, what's next for me? And
Mhm.
this was right after COVID, getting back into schools and things.
Yeah.
And so I at this point I have two grandchildren,
Yeah.
and I said, here I am. I'm out here in Kansas City. I'm away from my family because I left everything I knew and loved to go to Kansas City and try to work on that assignment. And I said,
Okay.
you know what? I want to be able to make a difference in the lives of children all around the world, but I also want to be able to, have a impact on my grandkids growing up. And so I decided to take a step out on faith and
Mm.
start my own educational counseling and education consulting practice. And so for the past 2 years, I've been able to do work all across the country. I have did work in 13 states and across 8 different countries, across Europe, and a few countries in Europe, and several countries in Africa and the Caribbean. So it's been a beautiful journey that
Yes.
I've been on, and I've been able to secure over $8 million in funding to impact rural and underserved communities across the state of Georgia. Just been a beautiful experience and a beautiful journey in education for this past 3 decades.
Such an amazing story. And I've been in the room when you tell the story in person, and the room is just sitting on edge and cheering along with you. You're such an inspiration. And I will say, your presentation style is so interactive. You've got the whole room going, everybody's talking, they're out of their seats. What are your favorite things about presenting? And do you have any favorite stories or recollections about experiences you've had presenting around the world?
Well, let me tell you. So I have a big pet peeve about going to presentations, and it's like watching paint dry. I can't stand for you to do the sit and get because
Yeah.
I know how important people's time is, we have limited time when it comes to being able to engage in professional development especially when you're in leadership, and so that time is valuable, and I try to
Yes.
make sure that all of my presentations are engaging and that everyone leaves with something to help them take their the work from where they are to where they want it to be. And so I
Yeah.
try to bring tangible resources to the table for
Yeah.
them to be reflective of their own practice and their own and fill their toolbox and with work. Like I said, I've had beautiful opportunities to do work in all different spaces.
Yeah.
I was this summer, I was able to do work in South Africa with a
Yes.
team there. And it was powerful for me to know that the same issues or concerns that we have in America, they're having over in South Africa. The social and emotional needs of students, the students. I love working with students. Like I
Yeah.
love to have an opportunity to engage and because I'd say there's nothing like kid love, but
Mhm.
being able to engage and talk to them, but also having people to kind of rethink. My biggest thing is for people to kind of think that things can open up and be different. Like we don't have to do the same thing. If it's not working for kids, you make some transition. So my biggest thing I love to do is kind of really look at, hey, how is this really working for kids? Even though we've been doing it for 100 years, does that mean that we have to continue to do it for 100 years? So dismantling those thought processes, developing trauma informed school districts and talking about what does it mean to be trauma informed and the practice and the work to make sure kids are getting what they need.
Yes.
So my favorite part of presenting is to open eyes of individuals to kind of really think differently and make sure that we are creating educational experiences to meet the needs of kids, right? For us to really make sure that, hey, the systems that are currently not working, that we dismantle those systems. And it's okay to be able to say, this is not working for kids. And so let's do things that are working for kids or that we know are research based. And so that's what I try to bring to my presentations. I try to, a lot of times when you go to presentations, the presenter always try to tell you about the great things that they've done and
Right.
how wonderful everything has been and everything. But I also try to bring the human aspect of understanding that leadership is hard, right? And so I
Yes.
try to give the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the lessons learned from those different experiences, so that people in the room that are experiencing some challenges. Because when you begin to dismantle systems, sometimes it doesn't always work in your favor. And then how do you really really lead internally, and lead with ethics and morals, and trying to do the right things even when sometimes the people around you don't support the work that you're doing. And how do you manage that? How do you manage the mental anguish of trying to work in a system that's sometimes not designed to meet the needs of our students? So I bring all that to the table. I make sure that I have, because I'm a counseling psychologist, I have a good idea of being able to read the room and being
Yes.
able to kind of see, who needs more, who needs less, how do I break it down? And
Yeah.
so I try to make sure that I'm meeting the needs of everyone, and that everyone leaves with what they need in order for them to go and just be a champion for children.
And you truly do when you present, you speak from a very authentic place because you know the work and you've lived
Yes.
the work. And
Yes.
coming in and speaking to any group, that's a powerful experience. But beyond that, I want to make sure viewers understand, you're looking to build a relationship with organizations. You're looking to help them
Yes.
do the work long term.
Correct. Correct.
And, when they start talking to Letitia, they're talking about where they are as an organization and being open to the possibilities of where you can go together.
Correct, exactly. And so I have had the unique pleasure, like I said, of coming in and presenting, at one space, and then being able to be that coach, that do the executive leadership coaching, or actually working, with teams to kind of look at data, to unpack where they are, to look at, one of my favorite things I love to do is look at the how discipline is affecting the work, and being able to dismantle the school to prison pipeline. What can we do? How do
Right.
we make sure we build the social emotional supports in place
Yeah.
in order for us to make sure we're getting the best of our out of our kids, and not continue the cycle of punitive, um, being punitive in our approach, because we know that it doesn't end well, and we know that it produces dropouts. So being able to kind of have those difficult conversations, go into schools that are struggling academically, and they're like, we're doing everything we can, we can't reach these kids, we're not able to move the needle. How do you make sure that you're able to connect with the kids, to break down those barriers, to make sure you're quiet in the brain enough for the students to actually engage in learning? So just so many different aspects that I have been fortunate enough to be a part of and had success in. And I try to bring that success to schools all around the world. And it's, like I said, it's my pleasure. I wake up every day excited to do this work and get in the trenches with you. So it's not a one and done with me. I don't come in with a rah rah rah.
Right.
I come
Right.
in with strategies, with the ability for us to really move the needle, and then afterwards get results. Show you how to get the results. So
And at the end of the day, like a true educator, you're in there doing all that and you're learning right alongside with everybody else.
yeah,
It keeps,
always.
yeah,
Mhm. I always continuing being. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to
yes,
learn. I'm always researching. I'm
yes,
always trying to find out best practices. I'm always trying to bring something new and fresh to the table.
yep.
So it's been a beautiful experience to be able to engage in dialogue with different people from different walks of life, to be able to really collaborate on what we need to do to be make a difference in the lives of children.
You truly live your calling. It's
Yeah.
an inspiration.
Yes.
So I'd like to take the last few minutes to kind of have Walter stand down. Instead of talking to me, just look into the camera. Any topic that's top of mind for you, and just kind of give a little mini Letitia presentation and let people get a feel for how you come across when you're speaking to an audience.
Okay, well, I told a little bit about myself and my journey and about this work. One of the things that I'm so very passionate about, like I said, is understanding how to really go into a system and develop, trauma informed schools. One of the things and that we're getting in this day and age, we're looking at equity and all these different things being a bad word, and so how do you really know what's going on with your students if you don't look at the data. And so, one of the great things that I have been fortunate enough to do is actually being able to take a snapshot and do what I call I don't know if you guys remember, but there used to be a show called where you actually go in and Extreme Makeover, where they actually go in and they would tear down the house or whatever and then build it up, and they have all these people come together and begin to rebuild. And so one of the things that I love to do and have been very successful in my work is to develop a collective impact model. And in that collective impact model, we look at who the data and then identifying systems and teams about who should take the lead in certain instances. And so when you look at the data, you know that data tells a story. And a lot of times what we do is we look at students, and the students have to mess up enough, or they have to fail enough, they have to be misbehave enough in order for them to get the support that they need, instead of actually looking at the data and being able to identify, there may be some issues or some concerns with this student based on the changes in data, that we could begin to put things in place to be proactive in our approach and our supports, and being able to align the supports with our budget in order for us to meet the needs of kids. Example. So if you have a student, hey, that has every year or every, like in the middle of the year, they're changing schools, right? That is a telltale sign that there's something going on with their kid. If the child does not start school in the beginning of the year, there is a problem, period. There's a concern that child education has been disrupted. More than likely, they may not be living with a parent or guardian, or there may be some issues there. So, why not automatically say, let me identify and put that student on a caseload in order for me to be able to kind of identify what's going on, do a psychosocial intake, and begin putting supports in place day one for the student, instead of waiting till the child get into the school and begin to misbehave and things of that nature. So what I've been able to do is been able to look at data through an equity lens. And if you have those different indicators, the indicators for any successful school district or any turnaround situation is behavior, attendance, and academic performance. And if you do your data across those different domains and say, okay, over a given month, has there been changes in the student's behavior? Have there been changes in the student's academic performance? Have there been changes in the student's attendance? If you're seeing major changes in any of those areas, then there needs to be some type of supports in place in order for you to address those particular issues or concerns. So that's the work that we would do. So what I would like to do is I would like to provide you with an example, and let's look at this data. Let's look at the data. We're going to give you data for a classroom full of students. We're going to look at this data over the course of a semester period of time. We're going to look at those change points. And I want you guys to identify, what students should we begin to look at, how do we support differently in order for us to reach our goal.
Incredible. And just so substantive. I mean, you're getting right down there and rolling up your sleeves, and you're in there with the staff. And so, to bring Lateshia Woodley in Dr. Lateshia Woodley into your organization and invite her to have that conversation, all good things are going to come out of that. And I can vouch for her personally. Great work.
Well, I definitely we're gonna get some success because the main thing is being intentional about this work and knowing that our babies can't wait. Our babies cannot wait for us to do the right work and understand the right work. And then sometimes we're so busy just trying to move the curriculum. We're so busy just trying to manage I said putting out fires. We're so busy trying to put out the fires
Yes.
that we don't understand that if we begin to work and be proactive, then we're going to be able to move the needle a lot faster.
Amen.
Yeah.
And so come to Letitia's Speakers Bureau page, see more, um, reach out, have that conversation. You'll be glad you did. Letitia, we continue to look and celebrate the work you're doing and look forward to great things ahead for you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be a part of this great work. And so I look forward to working with any and everyone. Like I said, my goal is to make a difference in the lives of kids all around the world.